The Timekeeper's Burden, 1492, Queen Isabella. The parchment was rolled tightly and secured with an ornate ribbon, the red wax seal still unbroken. The Privy Seal of Henry VII stood out prominently, giving the document an undeniable air of royal importance. I had been waiting in England's royal halls when the messenger delivered it with wide eyes, as if he held an unspeakable secret. "Your reputation precedes you, Master Elijah," he said before hurrying back into the crowded corridor. I ran my thumb over the wax seal, its cool texture grounding me in the moment. I'd seen seals like this many times, symbols of power and legitimacy. Breaking the wax, I unrolled the parchment. The top was written in formal, practiced script, referencing me as a trusted scholar of King Henry VII. But at the bottom, written in different ink and a hand that I knew was not from any man of King Henry's court but I have seen for centuries now, were the words that truly mattered. "Queen Isabella has doubts. Your expertise must convince her. Ensure Columbus sails, or history's path will be lost." After centuries of this, whoever sent these messages had become a companion of sorts, an unseen partner in this complex dance with time. I gathered my things and set out for Spain. The scroll felt heavy in my pocket as I set out on my journey. The path ahead was long and arduous. I rode hard, the steady rhythm of hoofs marking each mile. After days on horseback covering the winding paths of England and boarding a ferry to cross the Channel, I reached the bustling ports of France. There, a merchant ship carried me across the churning waters of the Atlantic, its sails billowing as it sped southward. Weeks passed, with weary nights spent under the starlit sky or amidst the clamor of busy ports. Finally, after nearly a month and countless leagues, I arrived in Spain. The sun-drenched hills of Granada rose before me, their beauty masking the urgency of my mission. I had been received by the court in Granada and had waited 2 days while they conferred behind closed doors. The tension was palpable, whispers and sidelong glances filling the air as courtiers speculated about my presence. Finally, the page called my name, and I was led into the grand chamber. The room was a blend of Gothic majesty and Moorish splendor. The vaulted ceilings were adorned with intricate carvings, and tapestries depicting saints and battles hung on the walls. Courtiers in silk robes stood like sentinels, eyes fixed on me as I approached. Queen Isabella sat at the center, her regal bearing commanding the room's attention. Beside her stood Don Hernando de Rivera, a prominent advisor known for his skepticism and his influence. "Elijah of England," Isabella greeted, her voice strong yet welcoming. "To what do we owe your visit?" "Your Majesty," I said, bowing deeply. "I come with counsel from my own sovereign, King Henry VII. He has heard of your deliberations regarding Columbus's proposal and wishes to convey his admiration for your bravery and foresight. He believes that such a venture could reshape the destiny of kingdoms and wants you to know that England looks to Spain with respect as you consider this path to the unknown." A murmur rippled through the hall, but before I could continue, Don Hernando stepped forward, eyes narrowing. "Ambition, yes, but where does it end? Does Columbus not propose to sail into nothingness? The edge of the world is where fools go to meet their end." I met his gaze evenly, drawing from the deep well of centuries of experience. "Your Majesty, consider the wheel and the windmill, constructed on the principle of the circle, the most stable and enduring of shapes. If our greatest inventions are built on this form, why would the earth itself be any different? We do not sail toward the edge, but a continuation." The murmur in the room shifted from doubt to intrigue. I continued, "Our maps have changed with each brave endeavor. What was once the boundary of the world has become coastlines and continents. If we never dared, Your Majesty, Spain would not be here today." Luis de Santangel, the royal treasurer and a known supporter of Columbus, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, Elijah's words carry weight. The promise of what lies beyond is worth the cost. Let Spain take this chance and claim what Portugal cannot." Isabella's eyes darted between us, doubt flickering but softened by the promise of glory. "Elijah," she said, her voice lower, "you speak as if you've seen what lies beyond." I held her gaze, knowing the truth would remain mine alone. "Your Majesty, I have seen enough to know that history belongs to those who dare to cross horizons. After a long moment, she turned to her council. Let it be done. Columbus will have what he needs. As I left the court, my mission complete, I made my way to the stables where my horse awaited. The voices of the courtiers and the echoes of the royal chambers still buzzed in my mind. The cold air of the morning bit at my skin, but a sense of fulfillment warmed me. History was now set on its proper course. Just as I tightened the reins, preparing for the journey back to England, I heard a voice call out, "Elijah of England?" I turned to see a young page running toward me, the sunlight casting a golden glow across the courtyard. I raised my hand and waved. "Over here." The page handed me a scroll, sealed in wax that was all too familiar. "Thank you," I said, and he nodded before hurrying away to deliver more messages. I cracked open the seal, the parchment unfurling in my hands to reveal the brief message. "Well done. A new world awaits." A smile played on my lips as I tucked the scroll inside my coat. I turned back for one last glance at the palace, where Queen Isabella now stood engaged in animated discussion. The ripples of this decision would stretch across the seas and echo through centuries. Adjusting my coat and gripping the reins, I whispered to myself, "Onward then." With a final glance at the royal halls, I spurred my horse forward. The road to England awaited, but the path of history had just been secured.